Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Stargirl Season 3, and this is going to be my review for Episode 2 for this season, otherwise entitled The Suspects or Chapter 2, The Suspects. But of course, spoiler it if you've not watched the episode, go away, come back later, because we're going to talk about everything in this episode, sometimes in detail, sometimes not. It depends what's happening, I guess. But yeah, go away if you've not watched it, but if you have watched it, you are continuing with the video, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on the episode, what you love, what did you hate, overall thoughts, any theories, predictions moving forward. Very curious to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, enjoy the episode, want to show your support, why not drop a like on the video to do all that? So last episode, in episode 1, aka The Murder, we're back at school. And, Cindy is now a part of the JSA with Yolanda, Beth, Rick, and Courtney. But also Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman, is still in Blue Valley, living with Courtney, Pat, and the others. And of course, the ownership of the staff is in question. It's like, well, who's got ownership, who's got loyalty with it? With Sylvester's story as to how he is now alive just seeming a bit fishy, and tried to cover it there, but I think we're going to learn more about that as the season goes on. But by the end, Courtney does agree to share the cosmic staff with Sylvester. Meanwhile, the gambler is back in town to seek help finding his estranged daughter Becky, and he does start to get threats from the other, former ISA members like the Shade and Sportsmaster in order to leave Blue Valley. And he ends up getting this weird security feed coming on his computer of multiple homes and places in Blue Valley, which we had seen previously when the gambler was talking to Courtney and Pat, but now this includes his own trailer, or just outside of his own trailer. But when the gambler goes out to inspect, he is attacked by an unknown entity off screen that makes this growling screech noise. It's a bit weird. And unfortunately, at the same time, the JSA is on their way to the gambler because he was connected to a gang that they attempted to stop earlier. But when they get there, Cindy is found next to the body by the JSA, claiming she didn't do it, but she is holding the gambler's gun. Dun, dun, dun. Cliffhanger. But this episode as a whole was a really quick moving episode. I was surprised how much stuff was in this episode with so many characters and set up a lot of stuff going forward. I think this video might be a bit longer than usual. I'm not too sure. We'll see how long it takes to get through talking about the stuff. But I have a good amount of dot points, at least in regards to pretty much every scene in this episode had some relevance of stuff going forward, which is not the usual case for a lot of shows, especially network shows, especially superhero shows. So yeah, we got a good amount to talk about. But the episode started in a pretty interesting way. We actually pick up 12 hours, prior to the murder taking place, where we pick back up at the trailer park where we see the gambler initially arriving, at the trailer that we saw him in last episode. And boy, he does fit a lot of suits in that one suitcase. I mean, it must be magical. It must be. But we get to see the outside perspective of when the, gambler heard that noise last episode. And we see that it was actually Crusher or Sportsmaster who made that noise and was the one to speed away. Now, Crusher was wanting to get some payback. He brought his baseball bat and all that, but he holds back before speeding away. However, someone else is watching the gambler, and it did look to be the Shade, which it is as he then enters the trailer. But we then do cut to present time, which is following the murder, of course, maybe an hour later or something like that, with Courtney and the other JSA passing on the information to Pat and Sylvester. However, despite the others not going along with it, Courtney does try to side with Cindy, as you'd expect her to do. Despite, her being found over the body with the literal smoking gun, but she does say that it accidentally went off, because if you go back and watch the episode, you hear the noise and then you hear the gunshot. But I'm still wondering whether Cindy saw what did this, or whether it was her. It's going to be very interesting to see this whole, story, move on, especially based off what we see at the end of this episode as well. But thanks to Dr. Midnight and her goggles, or Beth, we know that Gambler was not shot. That is not how he died. There was no gunshot wound. And there is still the question about the trailer being ripped open. And when Rick says, it is impossible because Grundy is dead, though we know that's not the case. He's having issues with Grundy. But we do see Rick go to check the grave that he last dug for Grundy, and it's still intact. So we should believe that Grundy did not rip open the trailer, unless Grundy got out of the grave, did it, and then got back to the grave and perfectly buried himself again, which I just do not see Solomon Grundy doing. But the JSA does pick up on the gambler's missing laptop, and that the ISA, or I guess maybe former ISA members, are all suspects. So logically, you find the laptop, you find the killer, which makes sense. There's not a lot of pushing towards that specific item. Because I guess you could do some like technological thing. Like I'm sure Beth with her goggles would be able to find the laptop if it like hooked onto the internet or something like that. Maybe that's a plot hole potentially. If there's, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But they'll probably pick up on that in like the next couple of episodes in regards to that laptop. Once again, especially based off the end of this episode. Now, a real like emotional like pushing point for Courtney personally with this whole murder case is when Courtney picked up the gambler's letter to Becky, you know, the gambler's daughter, at the crime scene, with it seeming that Courtney feels like a bit of a connection to her own relationship, you know, with her birth father and all of that. But more importantly, after reading the letter, Courtney just believes that the gambler was just trying to do right and change as a person and be good, and he is someone that does deserve justice for what's happened to him, with Courtney also vowing to deliver the letter to Becky, which I'm sure if they solve this case properly, that could maybe be towards the end of the season. As we talked about last episode, Becky is meant to be Hazard in the comics. I don't know if they're going to do that. We'll wait and see. But one thing that was, you know, I guess talked about was how they're going to explain this to the city. And we do see that the incident in the trailer park with, you know, the gambler's murder is being covered as a freak tornado incident. But Mike does see a perfect opportunity to make a name for themselves and solve the murder with the help of the Thunderbolt pen. Now, the only criticism, we'll talk about like more with the Thunderbolt pen later, my only criticism is I hope that they develop Jakeem a bit more so he gets more like ownership over the pen. Like he's the one that's connected to it, and he's not just a person that Mike goes, hey, we need a wish for this, and then Jakeem does it. Like hopefully Jakeem gets more confidence with it. But you know, it's really early into him having the ownership over that pen, so I'm sure we'll see that develop over this season. But at the American Dream at work, Barbara sees there is a mixed response to the death of the gambler, which I was sort of surprised by. I thought they wouldn't really care too much, but there seemed to be some sympathy, and then some people sort of like laughing at it. But she is met in her office by Paula, who pleads her family's innocence in regards to the murder of the gambler, and also watching Paula try to fit in is just pretty funny. It's like a robot trying to go undercover. Just like the constant questioning of why? Why would they do that? Why? Thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, once again, this scene, you have a question mark on it. Once again, thanks to something at the end of the episode. So there's a lot of questions being brought up, which I guess is perfect for a murder mystery. You should be questioning everyone and everything that goes down. Now, the heat continues to be put on Cindy by mainly Yolanda and Rick after it is revealed that the gambler had a stab wound, which of course Cindy is capable of. I mean, she's got her own little blade wrist thing going on, but it isn't, well, like, I guess the smoking gun, ironically, for this case. You know, multiple things can stab things. It could be an actual knife, a sword. I think Courtney mentions an arrow. I mean, a butter knife. It could be multiple things. Now, I must say, the tension, the absolute tension in that tea tasting scene with the Shade, I mean, wow, it rivaled the most common thriller film, or the most tense thriller films of all time. But the Shade's tea enjoyment is interrupted by Sylvester and Pat, who are there to interrogate him over the gambler's murder. Now, the Shade doesn't really hide the fact that he went to the gambler's trailer after them, like their meeting in the diner in episode 1. This apparently was in order to apologize and make amends, though Sylvester does doubt this completely. And, you know, Pat's facial reactions to their drama was pretty funny. However, Sylvester's anger is an issue, and Pat feels that's a different approach is needed. And I think we're starting to see Sylvester change, especially when we get to the end of the episode and certain things are presented which allow him to potentially change. But that's like a wait and find out. Like, we probably won't know for a few episodes to come whether there's any potential change happening there. Now, Courtney is at school and is taken out of school by Sylvester, who wants to train Courtney. This is a thing we'd seen in the trailers. And I think it could have been like an after-school activity and not during a test, which Courtney was stressing over by the looks of it, so it must have been important. But training is training, I guess. But at the same time, at school, we do see Cameron for the first time this season in art class, where he looks completely out of it and is struggling with his oncoming powers, and he ends up lashing out because he just can't paint. But we do see that Mr. Dysinger is back after that incident with Eclipso last season. I don't know if we saw him at the end of last season because it was in such a small window. He just went to hospital or whatever it was. So he's back. He's got a cane, so he's still got a bit of a sore leg. But yeah, good to see him back, I guess. And just quickly on Mr. Dysinger, obviously he plays the teacher on Stranger Things as well. Sidetrack, but when we moved on from Stranger Things this season, I was like, where's like the guy that plays Mr. Dysinger? Where is he? And I was like, oh wait, they've changed from, I think, middle school to high school, so that's why they don't have that teacher anymore, which is a bit sad. But I guess maybe now he has time to be on Stargirl more. I don't know. But yeah, the Sylvester training Courtney scene was pretty good. We do see Courtney showing off her moves, what she can do, and this is without any sort of training from Sylvester at all. And we see that Sylvester is just a bit more experienced, like with the energy of the staff, like flowing through him, pretty sick. But we see that Courtney is also taught how to do the same, though the execution doesn't go well the first time around. Some extra help allows her to succeed, and I thought this was a great scene. Even like, channeling her good thoughts and friends and happy moments with, the other JSA members in her family. I thought that was really nice and a sweet scene. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. But yeah, onto the other Thunderbolt scene I was talking about before. We do see Mike and Jakeem in the bathroom working up like a wish for Thunderbolt to help him with the gambler case and tell them the murderer's name and all that. I thought the toxic masculinity joke was pretty funny. Just them going, what's toxic masculinity? Well, I don't know. Who knows? But the Thunderbolt giving them the answer of the killer has many names. Thought that was interesting. Because when it started to write, it's like the killer. Yeah, and I was like, oh, what? They're actually going to tell us? And I was like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, you got to be more literal. We know how the Thunderbolt pen works. You got to be really exact. Otherwise, it's going to give you some weird stuff. So yeah, it's not overly helpful for them there. Maybe they need to work up a better wish, or maybe this won't help them at all. Maybe they need to do baby steps. Maybe they should go, who has the gambler's laptop? Maybe that's a wish for next week. Now, Courtney and Sylvester do go to meet the Shade with the intention not to start a fight, but instead for Sylvester to apologize. However, the past isn't repaired that easily, and Sylvester does end up bringing up the deaths of Jay Garrick and Wesley Dodds after the Shade says he saved Dr. Midnight, which rubs Sylvester the wrong way. With the Shade end up retaliating with the apparent details of Sylvester's funeral, where no one showed up. No one showed up except for Pat. But to be fair to Sylvester and the guest list, the other JSA members, were all dead. So most of the invitation list was also dead. But regardless, Sylvester lashes out, causing the Shade to move on from Blue Valley with his alibi for last night when the murder took place, being that he was teaching the waitress how to make tea at the diner. Now, Sylvester does regret his, all these actions, but obviously it's too late now. He's screwed the pooch, if you know what I mean. Now, Pat and Barbara do sit Sylvester and Courtney down. They are apologetic for what they, done and what went down today. And Sylvester sort of explains where this anger is coming from, where he pinned the blame on the Shade for the downfall of the JSA. But at the end of the day, it was him. It was Sylvester. He is sort of like feeling, which is pretty interesting. I wasn't expecting that, and it should have been like something that maybe you could connect, but I just wasn't expecting it. But he is feeling a sort of like survivor's guilt as to why he gets to come back. But the other members of the JSA, like Jay Garrick, like Wesley Dodds, like Wildcat, why they don't? Like, why is he the one that gets to come back? And I think that might be a motivating factor for Sylvester to either, grow as a person, but also maybe be the hero at the end of the day this season. I'm very curious to see where they go with that, just because I think that survivor's guilt will be a big thing. You don't know what survivor's guilt is? I mean, it's in the name. You're guilty because you survived. You feel guilty. The others people died, but you survived and you don't understand why. So that's a big thing for Sylvester this season. But we do get Rick and Beth at the workshop, with Rick still trying to get the hourglass back to full working order. I think it was 33 minutes or something at the beginning of last episode, with the Shade paying one final visit before he leaves Blue Valley, and he apologizes for not being able to fully help with the Grundy issue, but also not giving Rick any help for the next stage of what's due. But as the Shade leaves, we do see more of that flickering green energy from last episode, which is still not hinted at. And he seems just a bit weak, So I'm just interested to see where that goes and where we see the Shade next and how bad that maybe has gotten as well. That's another mystery. We have this murder, but then we also have this mystery as well. So interested to see where that goes. But we do have Courtney giving Sylvester the advice that I think he truly needs, and that's to separate Starman and Sylvester. That was a very big thing for Courtney to do. But in regards to Sylvester, he was a crime fighter all of his life since he was a teenager. He needs to create his own life outside of that persona, and Blue Valley opens up that door for him. Sylvester believes that the Shade is innocent as well, so that you can see some more, progression there. But it now just leaves them very confused as to who else it could be. So Sylvester's got a couple of episodes coming up. Probably find a job, move on, and then also put on that detective hat. But speaking of things developing pretty quickly, we do have Cameron at his house, and he brings up the pain that he feels when he paints to his grandparents, and they are pushing him to, you know, see that he is destined for greater things, with us seeing the plans for his father's mural. So it's like, hey, you're destined to be a political leader, or you're destined to be an icy villain. So which way are they pointing? I think it's going to be the chilly, icy way, but I guess that's for Cameron to decide. Now we get two pretty big things at the end of this episode, bit of cliffhangers. One, an answer as to what happened to something, and two, a contradiction to a scene earlier on. The first thing is that we do see that Cindy has the gambler's laptop. Now this is a big thing. How did she get it? Did she take it off someone else that took it there? Is she working? Did she see who took it? Or was she just the one that took it straight up? Like, at the crime scene, she went and grabbed it. Interested to see how that plays off. Very, very interested to see how that plays off. But Cindy, I think, might also be trying to connect the dots herself. Obviously, in regards to how she got the laptop is going to be a question. But I wonder if she's going to be trying to track down, like, maybe the security feed that we saw. So that's a very interesting thing that I wasn't expecting to see at the end of the episode. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how the JSA potentially reacts if they learn that Cindy has the laptop. And it wouldn't surprise me too much if Cindy goes, hey, I found a good bit of evidence, the laptop. So how's that going? I mean, she's been caught with a smoking gun, has the blade in her wrist that could have stabbed the gambler, and now has the laptop. Cindy's probably not helping herself, but I guess it depends if other people find out. But right at the end of the episode, we do see the Crocs training at the gym, and there is a weird thing that you can see Sportsmaster or Crusher is a bit worried. So is Paula. And Crusher says there's only there's only a certain amount of time until they find out. And I was like, wait, what? And Paula's like, yeah, that's true. And then punches the bag really hard. I'm like, well, hold on. Paula at the beginning or towards the beginning of the episode goes to Barbara and pleads her innocence. So are they talking about the gambler stuff, or is there like another conspiracy as to what's going on? What is going on? I'm so confused as to where things are going, and I can't wait to find out. I mean, this murder mystery had me excited already, and now we're getting all these different twists and turns. I think they're just trying to create that environment and that atmosphere of you just can't trust anyone, or you move on from a suspect and then they just show up again. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if something comes up where the shade becomes a suspect again, even though Sylvester, for example, believes that he's innocent. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case as well. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. We got 11 episodes to go. So a lot has already happened in 2 episodes, and we got so much more to come. But yeah, overall, this episode was a great, carry on from last episode. There was so much development in this episode. As I said, like, pretty much no scenes were irrelevant. Like, they were worth discussing because I think they added or, contributed to the plot and this whole murder mystery that's going on, all the just, suspicion around everything. So yeah, can't wait to see how this plays on. But of course, if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about the episode, what you love, what you hate, any theories, reactions to the episode. Very curious to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.